Good afternoon and welcome to the 182nd episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. It is the eve of the state championships. We are going to be excited to watch all these games the next 3 days. We've got the 3 flag football ones tomorrow. We got Class A Division II, Class A Division I tomorrow as well. A triple header on Friday and a triple header on Saturday. I will get into some of those matchups. We are also going to try to bring on Sandy Creek head coach Brett Garvin. All the coaches pretty much are going through their pre-production meetings today, and obviously they're super busy planning the logistics of getting down there for the state championships. And so as soon as they're done with those GPB interviews for the broadcast, he's going to hopefully let me know, and we'll just bring them on. And that is actually something that I think would be cool to do in the future, not necessarily have a set schedule or time when they come on, but we know these coaches are busy, so if we can get to that point where they just text and say, hey, we're ready to come on, and we can just send them the link and hop them on the show, I think that would be very cool. So we'll try it out today. Hopefully it will work out. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the basketball rankings, just to give you guys a taste of the coverage after football season, and we can kind of get started with that right now on the boys side. So you can go to scoreatl.com. Sorry, these cords are a little tangled. You go to scoreatl.com and check out the week 4 basketball rankings for boys and girls. They are up, and already we have seen some exciting results in these holiday tournaments. I'm going to start in Class 7A with the boys. Wheeler, they've bumped up to 7A this year after losing in 6A last year to Grovetown. They recently beat Grovetown in a holiday tournament, and now they're 4-0. They look outstanding. Norcross is also 4-0, and then McEachern is 6-3. They're really talented. They lost to a Texas school recently, and then they also lost a really close game to Kell, who's in 5A. And Kell's the only team right now that has their boys and their girls ranked number 1. They both look outstanding. In terms of the girls, they have been so close to taking the whole thing every season, probably the last 3 years, where they will go undefeated, lose by 2 in the playoffs. Go undefeated, lose a close game in the semis the next round. And so they're off to a really good start. But in terms of the boys, they've really been outstanding. They've won a bunch of games against high-caliber opponents. And so I'm excited. So they have an opportunity to sweep, and it's always great when the boys and girls are rolling at the same time. Milton, their team, we weren't really sure what they'd look like this year, and they have just gotten off to a 5-0 start. They're having a big win, so Milton is back to form. That's a huge powerhouse. Carrollton's also undefeated on the boys' side. Pebblebrook's really good. And then Newton has tremendous amounts of talent on their team. Let's see. That's going to be Stefan Castle. He's committed to UConn. He's had 41 points in the last game. He had 35 points in the McEachern win. And they also have another guard that is highly recruited, so basically a 2-headed attack in the backcourt. They look really good. And Stefan Castle, his 41 points, he's doing it all. He's got a great three-point percentage, and he's also 6'7", so he's getting some rebounds too. And then I was talking to Najee yesterday in Class A Division II, Green Forest Christian. They have a big 7-footer. Let me find out his name real quick. There's a couple 7-footers this season, but he is, let's see. Yeah, his name is Gai, Guy, and then Chol. And I was looking at his game. It's pretty impressive. He's leading them in scoring this year, 15 points a game. Obviously, he's a big rebounding presence, 12 rebounds per game. But he's been a really big force, and he chose Georgia State over some other pretty high-profile offers. So lots of talent on the boys' side. Obviously, you're going to see Well, Hughes has battled. They've been in the top 5, and they haven't even been playing with Jelani Thurman, who's obviously one of their best playmakers on the football field. So once he joins the lineup, probably in a couple weeks, and gets into the rhythm, I'm excited to see what Hughes is going to do this year. They obviously won it a couple years ago for the first time in basketball. That was a great season. They played that one at Georgia Tech. I saw it in person. It was outstanding. But let's get into the flag football real quick. That's going to be the first state championship games played this year. You're going to have Harris County against Southeast Bullock. That's at 11 o'clock tomorrow. Southeast Bullock has not lost a game this year. This is the third year of flag football, and they started in year 2. They didn't lose last season. They haven't lost this season. Then you have Central Carroll against Lithia Springs. That's going to be at 12:45. So the first one's at 11, next one's at 12:45. They are very fast-paced games. It's not as long as your typical football game. And so that'll be exciting. And if you haven't watched a flag football game before, I suggest just going back to, you can go to my Twitter. I tweeted out some of the highlights. We'll have previews up of these matchups as well, but I mean, it's impressive. There's some girls that have been making some tremendous plays, and then obviously it's not just passing. It's not going to look like a 7-on-7 because it is the tackling. There are handoffs. You can sack the quarterback, so it's been exciting to watch. And I'm excited about the final one. That's going to be Milton against Blessed Trinity. They met earlier this season. Blessed Trinity won that game. And then Milton, they're coming off a double overtime win over Alatoona. Their defense came through, had a nice pass breakup. In the first overtime, they both intercepted each other. Then Milton got the touchdown and then got the stop when it mattered. And their quarterback is Lindsey Gergens. She has 50 touchdown passes this season. So they're 13-0. Sorry, not 13-0. I think they were about 19-3. So she's averaging about 2 or 3 passing touchdowns a game. And then McEachern was the team. I mean, anytime I said, yeah, we cover flag football now, everyone was like, oh, that McEachern, they're going to win it. They're the best team. They're the best team. And that is who beat Blessed Trinity last year and during the regular season. But Milton had a really impressive win over McEachern during this run to the finals. That was in the quarterfinals, 26-20. And the senior Gergens was 17 of 21 passing for 228 yards and 4 touchdowns. And her top receiver is Amelia Svezia. I'm pretty sure she's leading the entire state. She has 1,100 receiving yards, and she's come up with some multiple games. She's a very fast player, and so you're going to see a lot of 3-sport athletes out there that also star in maybe soccer, softball. You got some volleyball players in there. And so I think what flag football represents is, for a school, these girls, whether they play lacrosse or track, I mean, you just kind of put together the best athletes from your other sports. You get a coach, you get a game plan, you get a quarterback, and you can make a fun run to a state title. So, I mean, it's been a legitimate GHSA sanctioned sport. It's blown up. The amount of teams has increased dramatically. And if you've been to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, there's just a really beautiful display next to the helmet wall where you have all the boys GHSA champions represented, and then in this new display, each state champion, they're represented on it, but then every participating team has a nice flag represented on that wall as well. So that's really cool. And then with Blessed Trinity, they had a 19-0 semifinal win over Marietta to set up a chance for their first flag football title. I mentioned they did beat Milton earlier in the season. And you're also going to get to see, I mean, these teams punt when they get stopped on fourth down. So as I said, this is more like a football game than a 7-on-7. It's going to be really exciting. You're going to have to make the plays, pull the flags. Got the referees out there. I think it's going to be exciting and really competitive. Obviously, they've been competing all year, but you put two really good teams out there together in under the lights of Center Park Stadium and put a state title on the line. I think it's going to be an exciting way to kick things off. So we're looking forward to that. Once again, I'll get the previews up on that. Let's see if Coach Garvin has texted back. Nothing yet from his end. Also, if you want to check out yesterday, Najee and I did a stream on our underrated and overlooked. We got into a ton of topics. We broke down all the state championship matchups. And then I thought we had an interesting conversation about Coach Sanders going to Colorado, his stint at Jackson State, and then just what we're seeing with the transfer portal this year. I mean, it's unbelievable how dramatically things have changed widespread throughout college football just since the introduction of the NIL and the transfer portal. We're going to be obviously covering signing day coming up here, and that's just going to be wild to see how things change. I think you're going to see a lot of players at the high school level. They're kind of getting the effect of it, because it's like you're committed to this school and then all of a sudden they pull in all these transfers. You might be going somewhere else. So I think we're going to see more movement on our end as well. And in some situations, it's kind of out of the high school guys' control, just what goes down in the portal. It truly is unprecedented and a look into the future of how things are going to go. So that'll be really exciting. I think I saw 50,000 names are in the transfer portal right now. Is that right? 50,000 names are in the transfer portal? I mean, that's unbelievable. And it's not just, I saw, JT Daniels is in it now. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, do you have to bolster your staff at the college level? I mean, who is kind of looking at that transfer portal? And is there a website where you can access it? Yeah. I mean, every time I go on, it's another guy is going into it. It's just... Yeah, and one of the things I mentioned about it yesterday is when a player is coming to your program, it's their job to adapt to your culture, to buy in. But in the case of these transfers, you might be promising them something. It's like, hey, enter the transfer portal, we'll take you, and then you'll likely compete for this starting job. But if you aren't kind of committed to that promise and you bring in someone else, I mean, that's going to be hard to sustain. It's like you really have to have a careful approach of who you're bringing in and who you're using to build your team if you are going to go that route and try to take advantage of the transfer portal. But I do think it is overblown when people act like, oh, you can't just have success if you take people in from the transfer portal. It's like, yeah, you can. We've seen it before where a talented player can go to a different team and have a good time. And in some cases, he might be even better at the new place. So I just caution everyone just to kind of, you don't have to enjoy what's happening right now, but at least appreciate just how new this is. I mean, just it would have been unthinkable if someone said, hey, in a couple of years, you're going to have 50,000 people in the transfer portal. You're basically going to be able to just openly say, hey, come here, come play for us. It's not. Okay, not 50,000. I'm way off.
Yeah, that was from Athletic. I got that article from.
Okay, so now I just said it's about 1,000 names.
Yeah, not close to that.
Yeah, because
Oh, I got notable names. Hold on, let me say notable names. So you got Clemson, DJ Ugale. You got NC State, Devin Leary. You got Virginia's Brennan Armstrong. Georgia Tech's Jeff Sims. Pitt's Keaton Slavis. Boston College Phil Jerkvev. Sorry. And then obviously you got Trey Sanders is another one.
yeah, and some of these guys are like first team conference guys.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I guess my no, yeah. So not just saying about 1,000, but I mean, you look at the state of Georgia in our recruiting list. Every single graduating class, we put in 1,000 names. So between the transfer portal and then all the recruits, it is just in the thousands, and it's going to be really competitive this year. But I just, as I said, just let's just see how it all plays out. Let's see who's able to take advantage of the transfer portal. Uh, Kind of what you do to stay consistent and not have to rely on it. Like, how do you keep your guys content, competitive, and bought in to the program? I think that's going to be a big deal as well. I think teams like Georgia that have that established culture, they're going to be able to do that pretty well. And you definitely want to have a coaching staff that's there to stay for the long haul. I think uh, coaching salaries will only go up because if you can attract uh, top players no matter where you go, I think that's a valuable thing to have. And what Coach Sanders said, it's about creating a destination. That's, I think, the key to this new era with the transfer portal. It's like if you create a enticing destination spot where kids know, hey, I go there, we're going to be able to compete in big games, we're going to have the spotlight on us. I think they'll take advantage of it. And we just got word from Coach Garvin. He's going to try to hop on at 12:30, so that will be exciting. I'm glad we'll get to hear from him. He hasn't been on in quite a while. But let's talk about that one a little bit. They're going to be playing Cedar Grove for the second time this season. That's going to be the first game on Saturday, a noon kickoff, and then after that, it's Warner Robins in Ware County. That'll be a big one. And then Mill Creek and Carrollton playing for the first time ever in the nightcap, the Class 7A state championship. I was thinking about what Sandy Creek needs to do about Cedar Grove last night. Caleb Manziel was actually confident that Sandy Creek might pull off an upset. I think they have looked outstanding in the playoffs, but I'm just worried about Cedar Grove's defense and how well it's been playing. They have back-to-back shutouts. They shut out Calvary Day, and then they shut out Oconee County. And not only did they shut out Oconee County, I mean, they struggled to even get over that 100-yard mark, if not for some really exceptional plays. So you can't really out-physical them defensively. You can't take shots on them. I mean, those 50-50 balls are not going to go in your favor. They're going to be 50-50 balls. It's like they'll take some of them. You might take some of them, but I don't think there's a receiver core necessarily that can just flat out win that department. So getting open is going to be really important. The separation on the routes. Maybe those plays where you break off a route early and your quarterback's just on perfect timing and is able to hit you. It's like you just have to take advantage of any opportunity against Cedar Grove. And then I keep emphasizing this point, and I'm going to ask Coach Garvin about it, is how aggressive do you need to be on fourth downs against Cedar Grove? They're so good on third downs, and you really can't rely on, okay, we'll just move the chains with that. It's like you're going to have to take some shots, keep them uncomfortable. Sandy Creek was willing to go for it on fourth down last round against Carver. They went for it on a 4th and 12. It turned into a touchdown. They were trailing at that point, and then they ran away with the game. So I know they are willing to go for it on fourth down. It's just in the state championship stage, do you have that aggressive game plan? Do you try to just let your guys settle in, or do you try to just keep the other team off balance and guessing what you're going to do? I think that's going to be a key. And then we'll talk a little bit about, before we have them on, before we take a break, the Schley County and Bowden game. That's going to be the first state championship crowned on the boys' end. It's a 5 o'clock kickoff. And, yeah, I was reading. Najee, you wrote that preview, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking about who the big names were for Bowden, and that is T.J. Harvinson and then Robert McNeil. They are both 1,000-yard rushers. So I like teams like that. When you have a complementary two-headed attack in the backfield, that's really hard to stop because you have the fresh legs. Obviously, it's a state championship game, so there's even more of an ability to just hand off to one guy 20 times if you need to, 25 times if you need to. And then, I mean, they've been getting it done all year. So I just expect Bowden to come out and just play a really possessive game style with just their go-to guys. And McNeil is just a outstanding athlete. He had the 2 interceptions last round, including the game-clinching one. So he's not only just a runner, he can also catch out of the backfield. He can play defense. He's physical. And then with Schley County, they have outscored their opponents 502 to 81. 502 to 81. That's pretty outstanding, and they're going to be in their first ever state title. But we have Coach Garvin ready to go, so let's take a quick break, and we'll talk to Coach on the other side.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So looks like we will have Coach Garvin on momentarily. Coach Garvin has been at Sandy Creek a long time. So the story there, that was Chip Walker. He was the longtime head coach. Garvin was there with Walker. So he has been there when they did make those last runs to the state title. That was around 2012, I think. I think it was actually the same year that Gainesville won its last when Deshaun Watson was there. So that's kind of the time frame. But then he's taken over since. He's kept the program really competitive year after year. They're obviously playing in that tough region. They've been in a tough region every single year, but with Cedar Grove each time, I mean, that's really going to test you. And their first ever meeting with Cedar Grove was supposed to be in 2020, but it got canceled because of COVID. So then they did not meet until the 2021 season. And then I think this will be either the third or fourth meeting. Do we have Coach on yet? Okay, so Sandy Creek, they won 3 titles in 4 seasons. So they had a really dominant stretch back then. God, I forgot who their running back was to look it up. But, yeah, they were just so explosive offensively during that run. And then, obviously, defensively, they're always fast. Had so many top recruits go on to play at the next level. They just had a really exciting run. And, I mean, Sandy Creek was a program that was well known before that, just always a great track and field team, always great in football. They're obviously great at basketball, boys and girls as well. But that was a huge run for them. And then they went, those state championships, I think, were in like 4A. And then they went to 3A now. But we got Coach. All right, Coach, I know you've been super busy, so how's this week been for you?
Well, it's been a blast. You know, it's all anytime you get to this last game now, you know, that's kind of what you work for. So it's been fun. I tell the kids just enjoy. You know, we got to focus when we're at practice, but the rest of it just enjoy because that's what this is about.
And obviously you're coaching staff. You guys have played Cedar Grove already this year, but have you had any other coaches reach out since the win over Carver and just talked about this upcoming matchup and maybe some insight they have into facing a team like Cedar Grove?
No, most coaches, they kind of, unless if you call and ask, they'll give you information. But most coaches don't offer up information unless you're asking for it.
Okay, so what did you see in that first game with Cedar Grove? Obviously, you knew you guys have a small region, but your chances to make the playoffs were good. Uh, you're automatically like guaranteed to get in, but still, you want to come out and compete week after week. But what did you see in that game? Just them coming into it, obviously battle tested, prepared. All those big teams they played. You guys, same thing. You guys played East Coweta, Collins Hill, Alexander. I mean, you guys had an outstanding schedule too. So, what did that game kind of feel like? Just another regular season one, or was it a sense of, hey, we might meet this team later on?
I told their coach and some of their players, and I told Darren at Carver and their players after the regular season game that don't be surprised, guys, if our region is still in it at the end. And we may have to face each other again.
Yeah, second year in a row. We all thought it was a possibility. What else did you think of 3A this season, just going through the playoffs? I mean, that was a big win you guys had over Stevens County, Savannah Christian. You did meet Carver again, and then a big performance you guys put up against Coella Creek round one.
Right. Well, Coella Creek, that's their first time. And hats off to them. They've done a fantastic job over there. It's just, when you get to playoff football, the level of intensity changes. Maybe the speed of the game changes a little bit. And so until you get there, you can talk all that all you want to, but until your kids experience that, that's extremely difficult to convey to kids. And so I think that, they're doing a fantastic job, and I think they'll be back in the playoffs again. And hopefully the more times they get in the playoffs, the more their kids begin to respond to that, and the kids begin to, understand the task at hand. And then Stevens, great football team, Coach Tankersley and them, great football team, big, strong kids, well coached. They do a fantastic job over there. And we knew going in that was going to be a battle. And then you go down to Savannah Christian, and, they're arguably the best offense in AAA at that point, points-wise. I think they were averaging 44 points a game at that point. And our kids had to play. That was Thanksgiving week, and, that whole schedule is completely different. And, again, that's another school that's, really just kind of been in Georgia high school a couple years, and they're still learning in their program. And I think that's a huge advantage for teams like us, Carver, Cedar Grove, Peaches, those schools. When you've been in it a while, the expectation, the understanding of what's, schedules changing, and I just think that's huge when it comes to that. And then, of course, we get Carver the second round, or for the second time in the semifinals. And, our kids know, their kids know, they knew it was going to be a dogfight. We just happened, that score could have very easily gone the other way, and I don't think anybody would have batted an eyebrow at it. Because they're an explosive team. Their quarterback and skill guys are great players. Number 57 is a great defensive lineman. They got some other defensive linemen that are really good. I mean, so that's what you get when you got a region this competitive.
Yeah, and I was looking at that Carver Atlanta game. They came out, had that 8-0 lead. I think they were up 8-7 at the end of the first quarter. And then did you guys face some like fourth down call that turned into a touchdown, and then that really helped put things in your favor moving forward?
To put it in perspective, I think Bright Bowens was like either 4 for 4 on that drive, or 5 for 5, 4 for 4. And most of that drive was all passing. So, I mean, he comes out the gate and he's 4 for 4 with 80 plus yards and a touchdown. So that just goes to show the caliber of team they are. You know, and so yeah, when they went up 8-0, I just told the kids, "Hey, look, these teams are going to score now. You're these teams are going to score points. We just got to go play and do what we do and turn the defense, get the ball back to the offense, give the offense more opportunities." And yes, we went forward on a big fourth down, kind of sort of in their territory, kind of in that tweener area where we might be just a little bit too far out to kick a field goal, but a little bit too close to try to punt it to them. And I said, well, let's just go for it. If we miss it, they got the ball down in here, at least inside the 30. So let's go. And so we did. And, yeah, I think he connected with maybe Cam for a touchdown right there.
Yeah, that had to have been a really exciting play to get you guys hyped up. You guys, I don't think you're a team that shies away from going for it on fourth downs. Basically, what I'm trying to say. It's like I feel like you guys know. I mean, in the playoffs, it's a semifinals. You're confident in your guys. You know you're gonna have to kind of have that aggressive style offensively. So, is that something you just had all season long, where you got to just keep your foot on the gas?
Well, I'm not an analytics guy. I don't look at that stuff. I don't care about that stuff. But it's more about a situational thing. Where's the ball? What's the momentum? What's going on in the game? Can our defense, if we don't make it, is our defense going to fall? Can our defense hold up to another series so quick? It's those kind of things. And so it's kind of fourth down to fourth down, to be honest with you, where, looking at all those factors and, Coach, I talked to Coach Dove, hey, do we got a play that we can get 6 yards, that we think we can, or, one of those kind of deals.
Yeah, and your senior quarterback, Jameer, so his nickname's G?
Yeah, we call him, everybody around here calls him G.
All right, I like that. So did he have, is that right, 5 touchdown passes the last time you guys
Yes.
played Cedar Grove?
Yeah, that's correct. The last game, when we played them, yes. You're talking about the first game this year.
Yes, correct.
Yes, he did.
So what do you see in that game, though? Because, I mean, that probably – I wouldn't necessarily call it a shootout, more just both great teams trading drives, trading big plays. But, I mean, that's one of the more high-scoring games we've seen Cedar Grove in this season. So what was it
Yes.
about your tempo and game style that was able to keep you guys moving?
Well, it's just and again, it's a testament to the teams in our region because we went up 12-0, missed an extra point when we went for 2 and didn't get it. And then, if memory serves me correct, I believe we dropped the touchdown pass right at the end of the first half that we could have potentially gone up 20-0. But just that quick, we missed the tackle on a little hitch play, and the guy took it 50 yards for a touchdown, and the momentum swung back in their direction, and they proceeded to rattle off 21 more points after that before the half. So it can go at any minute. It can be explosive for any team in this region, and with Cedar Grove too. So I mean, they're especially Cedar Grove.
And then I want to go back a little bit. I mean, last season you guys beat Cedar Grove in the season finale. Then you have a tough first-round loss to Dawson County. I mean, what was that like, just the high of beating Cedar Grove and then just the disappointing loss? And how has your team kind of responded, played with that added focus this season to make this run that has put you guys in the state title game?
Well, in the Cedar Grove game, again, they were up 35-13 in the first, with 2 minutes to go in the first half, and we drove down and scored to make it 35-19. We missed a 2-point conversion, and then we came back in the second half and beat them 40-35. And so, that again just goes to show you the competitive nature of these teams that we're playing. And I think, I'm not going to make excuses. We didn't play very well against Dawson County. Dawson County was a good playoff team, but I think, we went into that as, we just beat Cedar Grove. And I told the kids from that game till now, I said, just remember, you shocked the whole world 2 weeks in a row last year. You beat Cedar Grove and you lost to Dawson County. So, let's don't repeat last season. Stay focused on what we're doing and do what we're supposed to do. And
then
so the kids have bought into that.
yeah, well, I really like your quarterback. He's been so great this season. But what about his freshman brother Amari? He's made a lot of big plays. It looks like he's going to be a really special player for you guys. What has he been able to bring to the table, and also just during this playoff run?
Yeah, well, he our starting tailback Dorian Graham strained a ligament in his arch in against Noonan, and we tried to get him back. He actually came back against Collins Hill. That was senior night, and we gave him a few carries, but it just still wasn't quite right. He finally came back against Douglas, but Amari stepped in and just performed. We knew Amari was going to be pretty good, but the things that he was able to do, his vision, making those cuts, he's always moving towards the goal line. Very rarely does he go backwards. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can do everything that we asked that young man to do. And to step up in some of those big games as a freshman is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you have Amari back there. You have Dorian back. He took 7 carries last week, had the touchdown, and then your quarterback, he's able to light it up. I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of his season, do you happen to have the numbers on how many touchdown passes he's thrown?
Uh, it's going to be close. I don't have them
I
right
think it
there
was
in my class.
37 was what I remember.
Yeah, I think he's like 20, right at a little over 2,800 yards, and I think it's 37 touchdowns. Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Awesome. So offensively, though, I mean, you last time you played Cedar Grove, you guys had a lot of success on the ground. I believe Dorian was back the next week, correct, against Douglas. He wasn't
Right,
available for Cedar Grove.
right, that's correct.
Okay, so that's going to be interesting. I know he'll want to come out there. But what have you seen in terms of Cedar Grove's offense? Their kind of rotation at the backfield, the play of their sophomore quarterback, E.J. Colson. I thought he's been really great. He's obviously played in a bunch of tough games this season. He's mature. He can handle the moment. But just what do you guys need to do defensively against the Cedar Grove team that's going to be well prepared?
Well, that whole back group, from Colson to the stable of backs that they have, and the 5 or 6 wideouts that they play, they're extremely explosive. And just like in the first game, you miss a tackle, and they're going to house it now. It's not, oh, we'll run him down. No, you won't run him down. You miss a tackle here, it costs you a touchdown. And that's how they got their first touchdown in the first game was they just threw a little 5-yard hitch route, and Cam missed the tackle, came up and just kind of missed the tackle, slid off the guy, and then he takes it to the house for a touchdown. So they're extremely explosive. Keeping them contained up is always an issue. Keeping them hemmed up, not letting them get any momentum going. But they do a fantastic job over there. Those kids know how to play the game. They're great football players. They all have great instincts. They know how to get open and do those things. And there's an art to that, believe it or not. And those kids are very good at it.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was going to ask you next. So Cameron Watts, he has 15 touchdown receptions. Caleb Koss has 10. We talked about how big you guys were passing the ball the last time you played Cedar Grove, but I said it's going to be so important for guys to be able to get open. And yeah, that
That's right.
sounds like you're simplifying things, but against a good secondary like Cedar Grove that has the ability to bat down balls, make those stops, and get those interceptions, it's like, what about Cameron Watts and Caleb Koss has allowed them just with crisp route running to create that vital separation for G to be able to find the windows?
Yeah, well, a lot of that is Coach Duff and Coach Bailey, who coach the quarterbacks and the wideouts, teaching them how to read coverages, how to see coverages, doing those kind of things, and then at some point it just, I'm not trying to oversimplify by any stretch of the imagination, but it becomes about pitch and catch, throw it, catch it, turn, run. I mean, it's that sounds like a real oversimplification, but that's what it basically becomes, and you just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and they may tackle you this time, they may tackle you the next 5 times, but if you ever break one, there you go. And so, and G and those guys have a really good relationship. They understand each other. They know what we're trying to accomplish on offense. And so makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah,
And let's not leave out the offensive line who's got to protect all that.
no,
But they have a good
100%.
offensive line, and we have a good offensive line, and do a fantastic job of protecting G as well as theirs to protect Colson. So I mean, that's where it all starts. We can have all the great players we want out there, but without those 5 in the middle right there now, it's tough.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you aren't completing 6 touchdown passes if your offensive line isn't handling business, especially against a team like Carver last week. They have a great defensive front. But so I'm looking at the numbers against Carver. Caleb Cost, 6 catches, 93 yards, 3 touchdowns. Watts, 8 catches, 170 yards, 3 touchdowns. So they both just had massive games. Do you see them kind of having a similar style in terms of receiving, or do they have different skill sets? How are you able to use both of them so effectively?
Well, Caleb's a little bigger, a little stronger. He can run some of the inside stuff. We use him on the inside a little bit more. Cam's a little smaller, a little quicker. We can use him on some of the intermediate routes a little bit better because he's just a little quicker getting there. And he puts a stretch on those DBs. But, I think they just complement each other real well.
Yeah, for sure. And then last question, your game's going to be on Saturday, so just what's the rest of the week schedule looking like? What are you guys going to do kind of on Friday ahead of the game, and then what time are you going to leave for the stadium on Saturday?
Well, we kind of just shifted our practice week back a day. We had, which gave our extra day of the week was actually Monday for us. We went in, did some walkthrough, just got them running a little bit, moving around a little bit, just get some of the soreness out from, because that's what the kids are starting to realize is when you play these high caliber games like the Carvers in the playoffs, when you wake up on Saturday morning, you're hurting. And so we brought them in on Monday. Just took Monday, just kind of install, run them a little bit, try to get them loose. And then Tuesday became our typical Monday practice. Today will be our typical Tuesday practice. Tomorrow will be our typical Thursday practice. And then Friday will be our typical Thursday practice. To try to keep them on some semblance of a schedule as we lead right up to the game. And then, of course, being a 12 o'clock game, that'll be new for them. That'll be a little adversity to their schedule, but we're going to have them come in a little extra early, and we're going to feed them here. And then we plan on getting on the bus around 8:45, 9 o'clock-ish, try to get there around 9:30. And then, the rest of it's kind of, at that point, it'll be more in line with what they're used to doing, their routine that they have to go through or when their group goes out. And then hopefully that'll keep them busy and their mind off the gravity of this game.
And then a couple more questions, real quick ones. So defensively, you guys are going to have those players that are just going to set the tone physically. Who should we be watching for on Saturday? Just who's been that physical presence for you on defense?
Well, we got several. I mean, obviously Caleb and Cam and Travis Franklin, the 3 senior DBs in the back. And then you got number 12, Mathis Haygood, number 10, Joel Reed, number 8, Marcellus, number 3. All 4 linebackers have been those guys at different points during time. Number 3 is Jacob Good. He's our other apex linebacker. Up front, you got Travius Franklin, Trey as they refer to him, who is a great defensive lineman. There's a lot of guys on the defensive side that have to play, and they can all make plays. We tell them, don't try to make plays, just do your job and you will make plays. But when you start trying to make plays, you have a tendency to start messing up. So, there's a lot of guys that we depend on.
Yeah, you can't try too hard. You got to stay focused. But I know, with Cedar Grove, they haven't allowed a point in back-to-back games. So how important do you think it's going to be for your offense to come out and set the tone against Cedar Grove, kind of draw first blood?
I be honest with you, I'd like to draw last blood that has more blood than their blood. The first blood don't scare me too bad. It's that last one, and is it enough?
Yeah.
So,
And then just one quick point about special teams. I mean, that's obviously going to play a huge role in terms of return game, punts, flipping the field. And I've seen Cedar Grove play this season. They have a great kicker. I mean, how has the kicking game been for you guys this year?
we use one of our athletes back there in Pinson, number 14. He's a youngster, but he's punted the ball really well for us. Our field goal kicker's gotten better and better and better. I don't think he's missed an extra point during the playoffs. And so, yeah, we're kind of those areas have improved all along the whole season, and they're at a point now where we feel comfortable with them. And but special teams always play a role. Kickoff return, those are huge because those are huge momentum swings. If you give up one of those, so.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait for this one. Coach, best of luck on Saturday. We can't wait. One of the best games on the schedule for sure. It's going to be outstanding. Seeing Sandy Creek back in the state championship game is always great. You guys are looking to bring that back home to Tyrone. So thank you so much for coming on, Coach.
I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, there you have it. So very interesting. What I want to talk about, though, just from what he said, I thought the fact that Dorian Graham, their original starter, he said he got hurt. He's a running back, hurt his foot against Noonan. That was the first game of the season. And then he did not return until the final game of the regular season after the Douglas game. In his place, you've had G's little brother, Amari, come in. He's had a huge impact. He's got 10 touchdowns on the ground, 2 touchdowns receiving. And then you also have Franklin running the ball. So I do think Sandy Creek's running attack will be improved from their previous meeting where Dorian Graham was not available. And then also just the fact that we're going to see a lot of these big playmakers for Sandy Creek go both ways. They're going to be starring in the secondary, and also they're going to be able to come in offensively and spark big plays. And then the success of Cameron Watts and Caleb Cost, they had one of their biggest games of the year this past round against Carver Atlanta, combining for 6 touchdowns, each having 3. So their offensive attack, I mean, they've been really dangerous. Latimer, their quarterback, Latimer, their quarterback, he's at 37 touchdown passes. We mentioned he threw 6 last week. He threw 5 in the previous one against Cedar Grove. They said they also dropped a touchdown pass. And he was talking about how in last year's win against Cedar Grove, they rallied back from a 35-13 hole. They got a touchdown right before the half, 35-19, and then got the 42-35 win. And then when they met this time, they were up 12-0. They missed an extra point, missed the 2-point conversion, and then Cedar Grove came back on them. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Who comes out strong, who comes out fast. He talked about the situational ability to press forward and go for it on 4th down. Yeah, he's still confident in his kicking game, but I do think Sandy Creek is willing to take more chances, especially in that, the in-between territory. So, yeah, that's going to be really fun to watch. Just a quarterback like Latimer, big receivers that are able to get open, and then just the relentless pursuit we're going to see from Cedar Grove's defense, and obviously the physicality. Not letting back-to-back teams into the end zone is a big deal. So I think Sandy Creek's offense has been outstanding, and so has Cedar Grove's defense, and then we'll see the reverse of that with Cedar Grove's offense going up against Sandy Creek's defense, who had a big 20-7 win over Stevens County. They gave up some early points to Carver Atlanta in the last round, but then kind of clamped them down in the second half. And then same sort of deal with Savannah Christian, one of the highest scoring teams in 3A this season, and they get a nice 51-21 win. And so I think it will be a really fun one to watch. And then Sandy Creek, they're 12-2. Their only 2 losses this year are the one to Cedar Grove, 49-34, and then an overtime loss to East Coweta, who is a Class 7A school. Then in terms of Cedar Grove, they're 11-2. Their only losses were to Mill Creek, 52-36, and then to Colquitt County the next week, 39-17. Also 7A schools. So only loss either of them have had in Class 3A was when Sandy Creek played Cedar Grove last. So we'll go ahead and take one more quick break before we return and close out the show.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So I'm pulling up the Georgia High School Football Daily Preview. And so this is, I need to stop using the word interesting. This is intriguing. So G. Latimer had the 6 touchdown passes last round against Carver. When Cedar Grove beat Sandy Creek earlier in the season, their sophomore quarterback, Elliott Colson, who has been phenomenal, one of the best sophomore passers anywhere, he was 19 of 28 for 369 yards and 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns, and Barry Jackson absolutely balled out. He had 6 catches for 155 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I know Barry, he might have gotten banged up just a little bit in the Calvary Day win. I think he came out a couple plays but then returned. So I think he's healthy. And, yeah, if you haven't seen Barry Jackson play at the receiver role, he is next level. He already looks like a collegiate receiver. He's an outstanding playmaker. And I think you have multiple guys in this game that are able to go off of those big games. I mean, they make 150-yard receiving games look routine. They can do it any given weekend. And then same sort of deal with Latimer. He was, I mentioned, yeah, the 5 touchdown passes in the game against Cedar Grove, and also he rushed for 96 yards. That is something you're going to have to do if Cedar Grove is going to drop. Hold on, my earpiece. If Cedar Grove is going to kind of drop back and use maybe like nickel coverage or try to stop Sandy Creek from going deep, that might be an interesting aspect to this too. Can Sandy Creek get the deep ball going? They're going to need to get that Cedar Grove defense on his heels. But if that's the case, can G. Latimer use his running ability to pick up key plays? He did it with 96 yards the last time they played. So, say 96 yards, that's a lot of yards for a quarterback to be picking up. I mean, that's some big runs. So it'll be a really great matchup just to break down, to see what happens. I think it's always interesting when teams face twice in the same season. And not only did they face twice, it was pretty recent. That was only 5 games ago. And so that will be a great way to kick off Saturday's action before Class 5A and the big one, Mill Creek and Carrollton. So I'm looking for, trying to find the point spreads on, oh, here we go. So the projections have Cedar Grove 28, Sandy Creek 18, so a 10-point favorite. In 2A, the Fitzgerald-Thompson. I've said that Fitzgerald has played a ton of close games, and then Thompson has relied on that big play. Let me see. Who wrote that one? Yeah, they had 2 kickoff returns in the fourth quarter of their 56-38 win against South Atlanta. 2 back-to-back kickoff returns when South Atlanta was trying to make its comeback. And then in the win over Appleton County, I want to say they had a big pick six. But then John Tavius Curry had 15 carries, 171 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that 20-14 win. And he splits time with Zacchaeus Jones and Jamari Roberts in that Thompson running game. So they are very explosive. They can be run heavy, but they also have, I think, Zacchaeus Jones at the quarterback position. Maybe a 2 quarterback deal, and also don't have the roster in front of me, but that's Marcellus Brigham's a big receiver. And then Fitzgerald, they're undefeated this season. They beat Fellowship 19-9 last week, and they have a big quarterback, Sultan Cooper, 6'3", 207 pounds. So he's able to run once they get into the red zone. He had a big touchdown run that gave Fitzgerald the lead heading into the half. So that's a potential mismatch that they're able to take advantage of with their big quarterback. Basically a de facto fullback. Once you get into the red zone, you can just put him under center and let him move the pile. And that's number 1 for Fitzgerald, Sultan Cooper. And then let's see who's favored in tomorrow's games. So the Swainsboro and Prince Avenue, interesting. Swainsboro is favored 25-19. I thought Prince Avenue would be the favorite. They're back in their 3rd straight title. They lost to Trinity Christian last year. And the big one with that, Aaron Philo, he's got over 4,000 yards passing. I think 8,000 in his career so far. He's only a sophomore. And yeah, what are the offers? He's got. Yeah, Najee said he picked up another offer last night, and I couldn't believe it when Najee said yesterday he was like, yeah, they got 3 1,000-yard receivers. They did it again this year. I thought you were talking about last season. They did the same thing 2 years in a row. That's Bailey Stockton, 1,200 yards, Ethan Christian, 1,014 yards, and Josh Britt, 1,002 yards. That's unbelievable. That, my friends, has never happened before. Okay, Aaron Philo picked up an Eastern Kentucky offer. There's going to be a lot of attention on him and how he's able to go up against this Swainsboro team that's looking for its first state title since 2000 with head coach Raven Teague there. But, yeah, that's amazing that they did it 2 years in a row with the 3 1,000-yard receivers. It's like, if that was a college, could you imagine the type of recruiting they'd be able to do for receivers, knowing that the ball is going to be thrown around like that? But then, yeah, it was Swainsboro. They have 2 1,000-yard rushers. We were talking about how dangerous offenses are when they have that two-headed attack in the backfield. That's DeMello Jones and Quinn Brown. DeMello's got 1,247 yards. Quinn Brown has 1,142. And then Ty Adams, he has over 500 yards rushing. So their offense just keeps moving. They're able to pick up yards, sustain drives, just have so many options. And even right here, Todd points out that their team's success is aided by their ability to have the time-consuming drives. So what a contrast of style there. You have Prince Avenue, who can just hit you with a 2-play touchdown drive, and then Swainsboro, who has proven that it can just consume the clock the entire time. And right here, Swainsboro holds opponents to 7 points per game, and they are able to do it with their time-consuming drives. Best offense is defense, as the saying goes. So they're going to definitely want to keep the ball out of Aaron Philo's hands. And the other storyline is whether or not Bailey Stockton is going to be able to make a significant impact. Coach Vandergriff told Najee that he is going to play Stockton. He's going to dress out. He hasn't dressed out in, I think, the last 2 weeks after breaking his collarbone on a touchdown play, by the way. And if he's able to have some heroic performance out there, make a couple big plays, maybe a key first down catch or something, I'm telling you, that's going to be inspiring and epic to see. So I'm just looking forward to see how motivated Prince Avenue and Stockton are to get back on top after falling in the state championship game last year to an outstanding Trinity Christian team. And then Bowden and Schley County. Bowden is projected a 25-21 favorite. Things to know. Schley rhymes with Sly County. They had to put it in the preview. I think I'm responsible for that. I've said Schley way too many times. Let's see. So in terms of Schley County, their quarterback, Jay Kanazawa, that is just so hard to say. He's at 5,700 career passing yards, 61 touchdowns. I mentioned that he led Class A Division II in passing this season. That's what their style is. They go through the air. They got junior Jalewis Solomon. He's racked up 23 touchdowns over the past 2 years. And then their sophomore linebacker, I did not know this, Jaden Walker. He is the number 3 rated recruit in the nation for the sophomore class. This sophomore linebacker, Jaden Walker. Let's see. All right. 6'3", 230-pound sophomore running back. He's a 5-star, and he's the number 1 outside linebacker in the nation. And the Bulldogs are trying to recruit him. He's made that visit. He was at South Carolina last month. So, wow. We're going to want to watch that in that Bowden game. Zayden Walker, the best outside linebacker prospect in the country for the sophomore class and a 5-star. And he'll be responsible for trying to stop TJ Harvinson. He has 1,600 yards rushing, 19 touchdowns, and he sat out 2 games. He missed 2 of them with an injury. He's gone over 200 yards 3 times this season, and he has 8 touchdowns in the first 4 rounds of the playoffs. And then Robert McNeil, who I was talking about, is able to play both sides. He's the quarterback as well. He has 15 touchdowns this season and has also thrown for 11 touchdowns and over 1,200 yards. So I think that will be a really exciting match. And this is the first ever year of the Class A Division II, Class A Division I. So we'll see who's able to take the historic first. But, yeah, we'll be back on Friday. We will break down kind of what we see on Thursday's games and obviously look ahead. Jordan Dubroff will be live from Center Park Stadium reporting before the Class 2A game kicks off. That's going to be the the Fitzgerald and Thompson. That is the first game on Friday, correct? Yep. So, yeah, Friday's going to be the Thompson, Fitzgerald, Benedictine, Cedar Town, and then Hughes, Gainesville. So, a packed lineup on Friday of intriguing matchups. But be sure to go to scoreatl.com. We'll have our previews up. We'll be covering, obviously, the scores and through social media, maybe reacting or just tweeting out coverage of the state championships. But best of luck to all the finalists. We're excited, and we'll be back on Friday.